Welcome everybody to today's class is about painting, and right now I'm going to be showing you how I would paint with watercolor. The end result wasn't so great. This is a pre-recorded video. I'm showing you right now. I was just showing you the watercolor I was using. They're old dried up tubes of knee water paint. Uh, that's a small gaffer tape, the yellow tape right there I'm holding, just to hold my paper onto soft cardboard, and all I have available to me with watercolor was old paint and old brushes. I had them laying around in an old tool case, and I just recently found them. When I get better equipment and newer paint and brushes, I will do another video for you guys, hopefully. And I'm showing you that I have a cup of water. So I'm not the greatest painter out there. I'm not a background painter, but I was just trying to do as best as I could. So right now what I'm doing is I'm wetting the paper with just a brush, and I'm just trying to not soak the paper in water, but just get the surface wet so when I start painting it makes it easier. So you don't want to dry paint with a watercolor onto a piece of paper. You want to wet it down first. So the video is pre-recorded. I recorded it the other day. It was a late night and I wasn't feeling well and I really didn't have much ideas. I really should put more thought into it, but I just want to show you guys this video. And if you need a better understanding of painting backgrounds with watercolor, I will try to get another video made for that. This would be about 4 or 5 different half-hour video clips, because I take my watercolor painting, I scan it, and I go into the digital realm with Photoshop and Sketchbook Pro, and I alternate it, and I try to make it look better, more or less. So as you see, I'm using a mechanical pencil. It's a 2B lead, and I have a wooden ruler. And when you're just painting in general, you use a regular ruler and you angle it so you're not dipping the whole ruler in any paint or water. But you also get nice lines that way if you can do it very well. So I'm just indicating my vanishing point right now. And it might be a little hard to see, but I'm trying to just draw out some rectangles, more or less, in perspective, which will I'll try to indicate and try to paint them as if they were buildings. I really should have drew on the piece of paper before I wet it down, but I just wasn't thinking, and I apologize for that. So there's no sync sound of me painting. The process that I was using to record this was quite a challenge. It's the same process. It's kind of the same process I was using in the other videos when I was showing you about thumbnailing. So now I'm just drawing in some indications of where clouds should be, and also 2 trees that I want in the foreground, so I'm drawing out the branches and the bark, and and just big globs of areas for the leaves. So this is all just stream of consciousness. I really should have planned and laid out before I was going to produce anything, but just for instructional purposes only, this is the method I was using. If you're interested, there's many videos on YouTube and the like Vimeo or Dailymotion or FC2 that have a bunch of professional painters who can teach you a bit more, possibly about painting backgrounds. But this is one of the methods that I use and I've used in the past, and I just wanted to demonstrate painting a background traditionally. So since I went over in pencil, I'm just weighting down the canvas again. I mean, your paper will start bubbling and possibly folding depending on what type of paper you're using. I'm literally using a piece of paper that I got out of an old sketchbook. I basically just cut it out, and I did a painting prior to this, a couple of days prior to this, and I should have did a video for that, but it was just a test run, and it was pretty good, I guess. So I'm showing you the tubes of paint that I have, and like I said, they're old and they're dried out. You can see there's nothing coming out of it. So my method of doing is just taking my paintbrush and just shoving it into the tube and gathering paint. Hopefully, when you're painting your backgrounds, you have watercolors or gauze that you can actually use well and not have to do such barbaric things just to get paint on your brush. So you'll constantly see me sticking a brush down a different color tube or various color tubes of paint. So right now I'm just dabbing the canvas with my brush. I'm not using any strokes. It's literally up and down motion. And I'm just trying to give the impression of a sky with clouds in it. So I'm trying to show you what colors I'm using. I'm not too sure if it reads too well in this video. It's a standard definition video, and it's been processed a lot. I even had to do a color correction on it, which you should do anyway if you're doing video, but this one, since it's dealing with color and paint, I really had to do it. Like I said, this is a barbaric way of trying to gather your color onto a brush, but since these are all dried out tubes of watercolor, I had no other option. Yes, I could have squeezed water into the tube, but I didn't want to go that route, because then it would be hard to control how much water you're getting onto, how much water you're mixing in with your color. So those small brushes I'm using, they are sable hair. Actually, I think all the brushes I was using are sable hair. I used to use them to ink comic books back in the day, and now I just repurpose them to do these lessons on painting. They're probably not the best tools. They're probably not the easiest tools to work with either. But like I said, these are the only tools I had on hand, plus a wooden uh, a wooden liner pencil. I'm sorry, wooden liner paintbrush I had with has two dual edges on it. I think it might be for like writing kanji or something. I'm not too sure. Since I'm not a professional background painter, I don't really have a technique that I use. Um, I'm sure I'm using the wrong size brushes and the wrong type of brushes when I'm painting, but this is the best that I could do. I just needed to show how to paint traditionally without using Photoshop or Sketchbook or any of those painting programs, because lots of anime still use painted backgrounds, and without having to search other people's videos and to point you to the direction of those videos, which I probably will do for you. I just wanted to show you that painting backgrounds is it's long and it's tedious, and you kind of have to know what you're doing. I might give the appearance that I might know a little bit, but I'm not a professional background painter, so just keep that in mind. But much like doing anything like Photoshop or something, you want to more or less, um, I guess, try to paint in layers, even though it's just one piece of paper. You want to start off with, let's say, for instance, how I'm painting the sky first, and then I'm going to layer on top of that the trees and the buildings and the ground. So as you can see, the sky is coming out kind of well if you can imagine it. If you can imagine it that the blue is the sky and the negative space, which is the white, indicating clouds in space. So here I'm doing the same technique, the up and down dabbing motions. I'm using a dark, what looks like a forest green color. So I'll start with my dark colors first, and then, or like my medium tones, and I'll go in and paint, and then I keep layering. I'll go from dark to light. So after this dark paint dries, you can paint on top of it with a lighter color, and it'll show up. With watercolors, it doesn't take that long for it to dry, which is a good thing. So doing this dabbing technique, it might eventually ruin your brush, since you're fanning out the bristles as you're going up and down. Um, it might uh, bend the bristles a lot. So that's just a word of, I guess, a word of warning. But when you're painting, you do want to use the proper tools, and you also want to use good brushes, because if you buy like cheapo brushes, you'll get a couple of uses out of them, and then the hairs will start coming out of the brushes. because they're not made so well. But for instance, these sable hair brushes I've had for well over 10 years and they're still good. And after I finished painting this, all I did was just clean the brushes with water and reshaped the heads of the brushes with my fingertips, meaning I just tried to get it back to its original shape and not have the bristles all like fanned out. And the brushes seem to be fine since they are sable hair and they're not the most expensive brushes, but they weren't the super cheapo brushes that you can find as well, or either. So I'll tell you the dimensions and the size of the book that I took the paper from. I'll try to see if I can find the dimensions within the book that I have right here. So the book itself, it's it's acid-free neutral pH paper, white paper, 105 grams. It's a lightweight paper made by a company called Leather, etc. It came out of Bound Sketchbooks. That's the name of I guess, the sketchbook line, and the paper size is 11 by 14 inches. Like I was saying before, I'm using mostly a dabbing technique, but there are times that I am doing strokes, as you can see, my right hand. I'm doing a left and right stroke. And the strokes are basically just to fill in large areas. It's not to give any texture or any depth. So things that you want to learn if you're going to get into painting backgrounds is color theory, composition, perspective. And of course, your highlights and your shadows, where your light sources are, and all this, your shading. Remember when you're shading, when you're doing painting, you're shading in darker colors than your primary color. So let's say you have a light green, you're going to be shading in a dark green, and you're not going to be using a black. Now I'm just using a lighter color and dapping some more, trying to get the impression of leaves and foliage and stuff like that. You do want to use reference when you're painting. What I'm doing right here is stream of consciousness, and I'm basically just doing what I feel is natural. So I'm choosing my colors that I feel are just uh, best representative of colors that you'll find in nature. And since I had a limited palette and I wasn't mixing colors to make new colors, I was kind of stuck on what I could do when in my painting. So here I'm using a back and forth stroke, and I'm just indicating a ground plane. Here for darker and more paint on my brush, I'm indicating a mid-ground. And with more paint and a darker color, I'm painting a foreground. As you see, I was just reshaping the head of the brush so I get a better stroke. And with this color of yellow, I'm just giving the trees some highlights. I'm sorry, looks like I'm painting in the facade of a building. And now I'm giving the trees some highlights. And back to painting the side of the building. So with large areas, I do use strokes up and down or left to right or a combination of all of those. And with this orangey color, I'm painting another facade of a building. So right now I'm more or less pulling the paint instead of painting with it, meaning I'm globbing up a bunch of paint on top and then I'm just pulling down the paint. And I'm just trying to get in between the leaves to show the indication that there's a building in there. And I'm leaving a negative space right now because I'll soon be painting in a tree bark. So my whole palette consists of 12 colors, including super white and black itself. As you see, I'm not getting too much color out of this tube, so I'm basically just going to keep trying to pull some color out of there. And see, now I'm filling in that negative space with this brown color, which is indicating a tree bark. So when I did the initial drawing loosely on the paper in the beginning of the video, I wanted to create some sort of depth. So I'll have these two trees on the left and right, creating a sort of a frame, and it's in basically engulfing like the middle of the frame. So hopefully it would draw your eye to whatever's happening in the middle of the frame, or at least in between the two trees. Now I'm just trying to indicate a little bit of shadow on the edge. So darker edges towards the middle of the page, of the canvas, I should say. And as it goes from dark to light, try to give a little bit of depth. So I'm just trying to show you the size of the brush. And now I'll just be painting in the tree limbs. So each one of these lessons will be about a half hour, and in about 2 minutes I'll be wrapping up this first video. So I'm just trying to indicate the tree branch right here. And I'm trying to get it to point more or less towards the center of the canvas. So I'm going to wrap this one up right now, and join me for the other uh, 4 or 5 parts of this whole background painting process. I know it's not incredibly entertaining, but I don't want to do any speed up videos. But I might make another video with the sped up version for those of you who don't want to sit through all of this. But definitely join me for the rest of these videos. You might learn a lot, and I hope I can teach you as much as I can through these videos. Alright, guys. Thanks a lot. See you in the next video segment.